Welcome back to Sonic Adventure. In the last part we started off Knuckles' playthrough, and at the end we got told by Eggman that Sonic is also looking for emeralds, although not specific emeralds. We don't know whether or not they're Chaos or Master. But first things first, we get Knuckles' first upgrade here, and it's a pretty staple thing for Knuckles as well. It's the Shovel Claw. If you press action and jump at the same time, Knuckles will be able to dig into the ground and grab some pretty interesting things. Sometimes item boxes might appear, sometimes he'll dig up rings, other times he might dig up certain contraptions. For example, here we can see this big Eggman logo, and as we dig here, there's a monkey destruction switch that appears. Like with Sonic, there's monkeys in cages that block off certain areas. With the monkey destruction switch, we can kill those monkeys and continue on. A pretty weird thing about the shovel claw here is that you have to press jump and action at the same time. Honestly, it's not that intuitive, I guess is the word. Lots of Sonic games like to map one action, or not one action, but multiple actions to one button. And that means that, you know, some things start to override others. So I guess they decided pressing two buttons at once would make it work. In other games, he'll be able to jump and then press the button in order to do it. But here it's jump. Well, I said that wrong. He'll be able to jump, and then while in midair, you press the action button and he'll dig into the ground. But here you have to press them at the same time in order for it to work. Knuckles here has to go through Red Mountain. Sonic's Act 1 of Red Mountain, the most explorative, the biggest stage that Knuckles has, and probably my favorite one, because you could get to a really high point and then just kind of glide around and see the whole area. The draw distance kind of makes it so that you can't see all of it at once, but it's more so the spectacle of being able to glide everywhere that gets me, rather than the the looks of it, just the ability to fly. I didn't mention it before, but the red fairy that helps us out, she can also tell us where certain emeralds are. If we're looking for one and we touch one of the red fairies, the red fairy will basically say, "This way," and then start flying in a certain direction. You follow her in that direction, and you're basically going to be able to find the emerald. Here's a case of me having to dig for an emerald. As you can see, the radar is changing colors, but there's no emerald around, and I already killed the enemy, so it must have been underground. I also was able to dig up a bunch of rings just then. It's one of the many spoils of digging around. Sometimes you might not even have a place to dig in this stage, so it won't teach you that there are emeralds in the ground. But the fairy at the beginning of the stage does tell you that sometimes they're hidden underground. It's just that it doesn't go into practice here, is what I'm trying to say. And we get an invincibility, which ruins the music that I oh so love of Red Mountain. I think one of Knuckles' extra level missions, like the level B version, or maybe it's the level A version, is basically you have to find a piece of the emerald without using the red fairy. And I haven't done them. I don't know how difficult they are. They probably aren't that difficult because Knuckles doesn't really have a time limit or anything like that. There's no reason for you to not be exploring. You know, there's no rush, is what I'm trying to say. It's not that difficult. It had a shorter time than the Casinopolis one, but that was kind of because I was being dumb during that one. But they're all pretty short. They don't overstay their welcome. I'm going to take a quick trip to the Master Emerald itself, just so I could see it in all of its broken glory. We also saw it before with Sonic, but I don't think it was completely broken at that point. I think it was kind of fixed, like mostly fixed. there might have been a chunk missing. If you glide off to the side here, you might notice that there's an emblem. The only way you could get that, I think, is with Knuckles. Maybe you could do it with Tails if you decide to kill yourself afterwards. Like, you could fly there and then just fall into the bottomless pit and respawn at the start of whatever stage you were at before, or wherever you entered the area, I guess. But it's safest to get with Knuckles. It's also one that I'm going out of my way for because I know it's there. A lot of the other emblems I'm just gonna try to avoid. Or maybe I just don't know where they are. Conveniently, Sonic just happens to be holding the green Chaos Emerald, and green is the same color as the Master Emerald, so it must mean that he has a piece of the Master Emerald. So let's fight Sonic for no reason.
Hey, Knuckles.
We also have bigger spikes, and that probably means, you know, we could actually pierce through Sonic's skin and kill him, but you know, whatever. It's fine, he has a piece of the emerald, so we gotta fight him. Just like with Tails, the cutscene plays out slightly differently. I especially like Sonic's line just there. That's not gonna happen, buddy. I just like the way he says buddy. Collect as many rings as you can because you're gonna need them for the next boss. Well, actually you won't because the next boss is pretty easy. But collecting rings here means that they'll be available for the next boss, is what I'm saying. Now it's Sonic's turn to say oh no as you fight him. Again, really easy. I wouldn't recommend punching though. Running and rolling into him is the best way to do it. Again, for the second time though, we're able to knock the emeralds out of Sonic. Well, the second time in the context of Sonic Adventure and in the context of the Sonic series in general, because the first time was at the beginning of Sonic 3, and now we're doing it again here. And then the first time in the game was in Sonic's playthrough, and now we're doing it again in Knuckles' playthrough. Again, though, the emeralds don't match the boss fight. By the way, we have a boss fight. We're gonna fight Chaos 4 again, and like with Sonic and with Tails, it's gonna be a pretty simple boss. Although there is a difference in Tails' version that I forgot to mention. When you play as Tails, the boss only has 4 hits. When you're playing as Sonic and Knuckles, instead it takes 5, so it's a bit longer. But it's still a pretty simple boss. The patterns don't change, so it's still very easy to kill. And again, the emeralds don't really match. Like, he has white now, when before he had only what were the colors? He had red and blue before, and he just got blue, and now he has purple. It's weird. Whatever. Boss fight is simple as ever. He'll try to knock you off of the platforms, and he'll try to knock down a bunch of the platforms. Run into him by gliding or while in a ball form, and you'll be able to take down a hit. I guess that's something I didn't say before. Gliding actually damages enemies, so if you want to glide into a bad nick instead of just jumping into it, you can do that. There's not really much to say. I mean, it's the 4th time we're going through the same boss again. I guess I could say that it's also easier as Knuckles than with Sonic, because Knuckles, again, like Tails, doesn't really have to step into the murky water below. He can kind of just glide everywhere, or glide from a platform to platform, rather. And there's another thing to talk about, actually. Knuckles is gliding and wall climbing. He can't wall climb on every surface. Like in Station Square, I don't think he could climb a lot of the walls around and be able to get to like the top of the area or anything like that. In the stages, it's pretty free. Like, you could climb whatever you want. But when it comes to the adventure fields, Knuckles is very limited in what he can climb. Basically, if you can't get up there with any other character, you probably can't get up there with Knuckles. That's kind of how I guess, say the restriction. Jeez, can this boss fight be over already? Thank you very much. Okay. Chaos 4 is done. And now we can get to the same cutscene that we've seen before again. That is kind of the lamest part of the game, having to go through things that are exactly the same. I said before that I like it when small things change, like dialogue and stuff like that. For example, Tails talking to Eggman in his playthrough versus Sonic talking to Eggman in his playthrough. That's fine. Just that scene right there that was all pre-rendered and stuff, that's the exact same scene as before. The boss fight doesn't really have anything interesting that it does that's different from before. The only difference is the character you're playing as, and either way it's still very easy, so that's pretty boring. But now we can kind of separate from Sonic and Tails again, so we can do our own thing. Of course, Knuckles does end up on the egg carrier eventually, but for now we don't have to stick with Sonic. Excuse me, I just kind of burped there. Just like with Sonic and Tails, you can look for Knuckles and have a different line with him. And honestly, the line that Knuckles says, I was going to say the Knuckles that line says, it's pretty much the same as what Sonic's about to say here.
Hey Knuckles, whatever happened to your unfinished business?
Knuckles basically said, like, don't you guys have something you're supposed to be doing? And Sonic essentially just said the same thing. You say that, but you're just standing there doing nothing. I decided to step into Tails' house just to show that you can. And now we're just kind of gonna go to the next stage. We have the trolley here that takes us into the Lost World area. That's what we have to take in order to progress with Knuckles' playthrough. There are 2 stone statues that we need to take into the big shrine over there where Lost World is. And this place is a huge maze. You don't have to explore much of it as Sonic, but as Knuckles, you kind of have to figure out where you have to go from below, because you can't glide while holding the stone. And you also need to figure out where the other stone is, because it takes 2 stones in order to enter the area. But first, before we go after the other stone, I'm gonna go grab another upgrade. This upgrade is Knuckles' optional one. You don't need it in order to beat the game or anything like that. And honestly, it isn't very useful. But I want to grab it because, well, I like having all the upgrades. I like seeing the character visually change from the previous model or whatever. Before that though, another quick detour. We need to step inside of this log in order to get another emblem. You can only really get up there with Knuckles. I don't think Tails can fly high enough in order to get there. And apparently that's supposed to be Big's house over there that we were flying near. There was a bed and kind of a big umbrella thing above it.
Now you've got fighting gloves.
And we get the fighting gloves for Knuckles. They're aesthetically, more pleasing than the regular Knuckles gloves, because now he matches his shoes a lot better. And that's the only source of clothing on Knuckles, so it's good to keep matching. But now Knuckles basically has Sonic's light speed attack, his own kind of version of it. Hold down the B button, or no, there's no B button. Hold down the action button, and you'll be able to charge up. As you do so, once he's fully charged, you let go of the button, and he'll basically fly into whatever enemy you need him to fly into, if they're nearby. It, like the light speed attack, does double damage to bosses, so if you want to use it on bosses, you can do that. And his max speed is pretty slow. It's like his walking speed, so it's not good to use very often. Also, if you jump, you're immediately taken out of the attack mode, I guess. Like, you stop you lose the glow and you can't do the attack anymore. So you need to be standing still and you need to be on the ground in order for it to be used. The second statue is pretty close to where you entered the area. As you saw, I went back to the ladder and then kind of just took the leftmost path. And I was able to get the second stone statue. And this will lead us into Lost World, but I don't want to go into there yet. I'm just gonna stand here dancing until the next part comes around.